Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Sunday, November the 24th. We're going to quickly go through this four-game slate. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. And if you have not yet, make sure you do subscribe to the channel as well. You can also follow me on Twitter. Link is down in the description at DFS by Noah. I am very active over on Twitter. Feel free to give me a follow over there. And if you are planning to play NFL today, if you're playing the NFL slate, I do already have my NFL video up. I uploaded it on Friday afternoon, just going through the NFL slate, talking about some of my favorite plays for DraftKings and Yahoo. So if you're playing NFL today, definitely check out my NFL video that's already up on the channel. We're going to quickly go through this four-game slate for Sunday. Forgot to tell you guys at the beginning, but I did get a haircut this weekend. I do probably look a little bit different than when you guys last saw me. I went and got a haircut on Saturday, cleaned up my face a little bit as well. So I probably look a little bit different from the last time you guys saw me. I usually do this thing where I grow my hair out like really, really long. I usually go like 4 or 5 months. I'll grow it out like really long. And then when it gets to the point where I'm kind of like tired of it, I'm ready to get a haircut, then I'll go get a haircut and I'll get it cut really, really short. This is kind of how I've always done. I just like to go. I don't really like to get haircuts all the time. I just usually go like every 4 or 5 months whenever my hair gets too long. So I guess I look a little bit different than when you guys last saw me. But let's go ahead and take a look at this Sunday slate. We'll start off at point guard. So just looking at point guard on DraftKings, I think the two plays that really stand out to me the most are Drew Holiday for 7,900 against the Clippers and Spencer Dinwiddie for 7,700 against the Knicks. So Drew Holiday he's too cheap on DraftKings in my opinion. Even with Lonzo healthy and coming back healthy and Brandon Ingram healthy as well, Drew Holiday's still been like a dominant fantasy player for this Pelicans team. He still has a very high usage rate. We can pull up his usage with the Pelicans this season just so you guys can see. I mean, it's really him, Lonzo, and Ingram doing all the heavy lifting. Drew has definitely benefited from Lonzo coming off the bench as well. That's really helped him. So I think if we get Drew starting at point guard again, I'm not sure if we will. I mean, Lonzo played 24 minutes on Saturday night. He was going to be limited to 24 minutes. He did come off the bench in that game. So there's a chance he winds up starting today. But if we do look at the numbers for the Pelicans this season, I mean, Drew Holiday still doing a lot of the heavy lifting. 462 minutes played, 25.4% usage rate. Second on the team behind Brandon Ingram, averaging 1.08 fantasy points per minute. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised with it being a back-to-back for the Pelicans if they decide to rest Lonzo. So that's some news we'll need to keep an eye on. Now, I think Lonzo's 5K, so we'll talk about him in a second. But Drew, I do like at 7,900. I definitely play him over Devin Booker, even with Devin Booker likely playing without Ricky Rubio. He's really benefited from Rubio being out the last few games, but it's a tough matchup for Booker going into Denver to face a really good defense, a team that plays slow. I would much rather just go to Drew Holiday or Spencer Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie we know is going to really benefit from Kyrie off the floor. I can pull up his usage and the usage for Brooklyn this season with Kyrie off. It's definitely obviously been a big boost for Spencer Dinwiddie. Just the last few games with Kyrie out, I believe Kyrie's been out all these 4 games. Just the last 4 games, Kyrie's not played in those. 30 minutes against the Bulls, 35 DraftKings points. 33 minutes against the Pacers, 50 DraftKings points. 37 minutes against the Hornets, 41 DK points. In their last game against the Kings, he only played 28 minutes, but that kind of had to do with blowout. They did win that game by almost 20 points. You got 36 DraftKings points in 28 minutes from Dinwiddie here, or in that game. Here, I would imagine he plays probably 35, 36 minutes if the game is competitive. With Kyrie off the floor, Spencer Dinwiddie has a 32.1% usage rate, averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute. Obviously, been the biggest beneficiary with Kyrie out, and we know Kyrie's going to be out for at least a few more games. I'm pretty sure he's going to be out heading into. He might play Wednesday is when they face the Celtics. He might try and return for that game, but he's going to be out for this game. Pretty sure he's going to be out like Monday as well, or Tuesday the next time they play. I can't remember. So I really like Drew at point guard. I really like Dinwiddie at point guard. But there's some good mid-range options. I want to talk about Lonzo. I think Lonzo is a very solid option here at 5K. So he only played 19 minutes in his first game back from injury against the Suns. He did come off the bench in that game. They said they were going to limit him to 20 minutes. He played 19. He had 16 DraftKings points in 19 minutes. We got news on Saturday that he was going to be limited to 24 minutes. He came off the bench, played 24 minutes. I believe he finished with about 26 or 27 DraftKings points. It is a back-to-back, so like I said at the beginning of the video, I wouldn't be surprised if Lonzo sits this game. He rests. We don't have that news, though, as of Saturday night. I'm assuming he plays. since he was limited to 25 minutes or he went from a 20-minute to a 25-minute limit just the last 2 games, I imagine he's probably going to be able to play close to 30 minutes if they will let him. And even if he comes off the bench, Lonzo still feels too cheap on DraftKings at $5K. I really like him as sort of a value point guard. Really weird to consider Lonzo a value play, but $5K for Lonzo, even in limited minutes, is still too cheap. Now on Yahoo, it's a bit different. You got Dinwiddie at 32. Drew's not eligible at this position. He's shooting guard eligible. So you got Dinwiddie at 32, who you can pay up for. And then you have Lonzo at 22, who honestly I'm not the biggest fan of because it's hard to play him at $22 if he's going to be limited. $5K on DraftKings, though, is just like a totally different story. One guy I want to talk about, though, as a value play is Corey Joseph. So Corey Joseph's only $12 on Yahoo. He is incredibly cheap. He is expected to play here against the Wizards. He's probable. We do know that Bogdan Bogdanovic is doubtful. He's unlikely to play. I think it's very likely that Corey Joseph picks up more usage and his minutes are going to be more secure when you take Bogdan off the floor. He only played 23 minutes in that game against Brooklyn. I was pretty high on him once we got the news Bogdan was going to be out. I thought his minutes were pretty secure. Very surprising. He only played 23 minutes. He had 19 or almost 20 fantasy points in those 23 minutes. I mean, that was a pretty good matchup against Brooklyn. This is an even better matchup against the Wizards. He's still dirt cheap on Yahoo at $12. Now on DraftKings, he's $4,900, and I'd rather just play Lonzo for $100 more. But you still can consider Joseph as a value play if you do want to go to him. I wanted to show you guys the rotation last game from the Kings so we can just see how Corey Joseph played. So it looks like to start off the game, he played about 6 minutes, subbed out. He checked in right before the end of the first quarter and played about 2 minutes, I believe, or he played the final minute 30 of the first quarter, and then he played 3 minutes in the second quarter, checked in, played 6 minutes, in the 6-minute mark of the second quarter. He finished out the second quarter, or got to the end of the second quarter. Then he played, looks like about 7 minutes or 6.5 minutes to begin the third quarter, and then after those 6.5 minutes to begin the third quarter, he never checked into the game again. He was on the bench for the half of the third quarter and the entire fourth quarter. So that's one of the reasons he only played 23 minutes. I'm not sure if that really had to do with his play. I mean, the Kings did get blown out in this game. It looks like the only starters that even touched the floor in the fourth quarter, you had Buddy Hield play the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, and then he subbed out, didn't play the rest of the fourth quarter. You had both Holmes and Harrison Barnes play a small stint in the fourth quarter, but then they subbed out. So I think a lot of that had to do with blowout. You're most likely going to get 30-plus minutes from Corey Joseph, especially when Bogdan's out. Bogdan was kind of the guy that was taking minutes away from Joseph. Now that Bogdan's doubtful, Corey Joseph his minutes should be pretty secure, and he's $12 on Yahoo. So I really like him as a value play. It's a great matchup. This Wizards team, we know, is a very bad defensive team. They're top 5 in the league in pace. They're ranked 4th in pace. If we look at defensive rating, the Wizards are 29th, worst in the league, just behind the Warriors. Only the Warriors have a worse defensive rating than the Wizards. So really good spot for some of these Kings guys. I really like Corey Joseph on Yahoo. I like him on DraftKings as well, but choosing between him and Lonzo, I think I'd feel just better with Lonzo for $100 more, especially if Lonzo isn't limited. If Lonzo has no limit today and he starts, I mean, he's going to be one of the best plays on the slate. But let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now and talk about this position. So on DraftKings, you got Bradley Beal as the most expensive shooting guard at $10,200. He's also the most expensive shooting guard on Yahoo. He's at $43. So just looking at this slate the night before, I do like Bradley Beal a lot, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him into the core because I really like Nikola Jokic against the Suns for $9,200. And I don't know if I can get Jokic and Beal together on this slate unless we just get a lot of value, if we get some more value open up. So right now, I'm not going to include Beal in the core. On Yahoo, though, it's a totally different story. He's only $43. He is the third most expensive player on the slate. Kawhi Leonard's $47. Paul George is $45. And then you got Bradley Beal at $43. Comparing his price to Jokic, you have Beal at $43, Jokic at $38. Those are two of the guys that really stand out to me on Yahoo. I think it's going to be pretty easy to pay up for Bradley Beal at shooting guard. So I really like him over there on Yahoo. I mean, $43 is too cheap of a price tag for Bradley Beal. The dude's playing 38 to 40 minutes every game. He was running to the ground last season. They were playing him heavy minutes last season. They're doing the same thing this season. I mean, just the last 6 or 7 games, he's played at least 36 minutes in all 6 or 7 of their last 7 games or whatever. He's been very productive as well. We know Bradley Beal is going to be a very high volume player, going to be out there taking a ton of shots. He can get assists as well. Just looking at that last game against the Hornets, he took 19 shots in that game, was 10 from 19 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, had 30 points, 5 rebounds, 12 assists, 57 DraftKings points from Bradley Beal. Pretty good matchup again here against this Kings team that really isn't that good defensively. Not playing as fast this season as they have in previous seasons, but still a really good spot for Bradley Beal. This Kings-Wizards game is probably going to be the premier game to target on the slate, just in terms of fantasy appeal. Really like Bradley Beal on DraftKings and Yahoo. I think it's a lot easier, though, to get him in on Yahoo at $43, so that's where I will be including him into the core plays. But Buddy Hield's someone I want to talk about on both sides. So on DraftKings, Buddy Hield is $7,200. On Yahoo, he's at $26. Buddy Hield's one of my favorite plays today, especially since we know that Bogdan is doubtful. He's unlikely to play. We can go back to the Kings and just pull up their usage so far this season when you take Bogdan and De'Aaron Fox off the floor, because we know both those guys are going to be out. So we'll take De'Aaron Fox off. We'll take Bogdan off. We can take Trevor Ariza off as well, because Trevor Ariza is not going to be active for this game. Just see the usage so far this season. I mean, it's not going to be that big of a sample size, but 89 minutes for Buddy Hield with those three guys off the floor. 31.5% usage rate, which leads the team. Only 0.9 fantasy points per minute, 0.91 fantasy points per minute, which is kind of surprising. I think a lot of that has to do with just him not making a ton of shots. I mean, we know Buddy Hield is a very scoring-dependent player. If he's not knocking down his shots, he's not really going to contribute with the rebounds or the assists. But this is a spot where he should be able to get up as many shot attempts as he wants. I mean, facing this Wizards team that's top 5 in the league in pace, one of the worst defensive teams, this is a spot that sets up very well for Buddy Hield. I love him on DraftKings and Yahoo. I think he's underpriced. I think he just gives you so much upside on this price tag. You're going to have those games where Buddy Hield makes 50% of his shots, knocks down 6 or 7 threes, and he's going to put up 45, 50 DraftKings points. This could easily be one of those games. With Bogdan out, he's going to see more usage. So I really like Buddy Hield on both sides. He's one of my favorite plays today. I think he's way too cheap on Yahoo, and even at $7,200 on DraftKings, I still think that's too cheap as well. So just talking about a few more shooting guards before we move on to small forward. So JJ Redick, $6,100 on DraftKings, which is, I mean, it's honestly the price he should be. The guy's been playing incredibly well lately, even with the Pelicans starting to get healthy, getting Lonzo back, getting Brandon Ingram back. You're still getting huge games from JJ Redick. He had a pretty big game on Saturday night as well against the Jazz, I believe they played on Saturday night. JJ Redick got priced up a lot on DraftKings, but if we go over to Yahoo, I mean, he's still incredibly cheap at just $13. He's one of my favorite values. Just looking at this slate right now, the night before, Redick really stands out given that $13 price tag. I can actually see the game log. Yeah, he had 39 fantasy points against the Jazz on Saturday night, played 30 minutes, had 27 and 4. He's been contributing a little bit more peripherals-wise than we've seen in past seasons. I mean, JJ Redick's usually a guy, if he's not knocking down like 6 or 7 threes, if he's not scoring 20 to 25 points, he's not really going to hit value. But lately, he's been grabbing 5, 6 rebounds, getting some assists as well. JJ Redick for only $13, I really like on Yahoo. I think it's way too cheap. The price tag just hasn't adjusted to what it should be. $6,100 on DraftKings, obviously not as good of a play over there. Honestly, I'd rather play RJ Barrett at the same price tag. But just $5K and below for value at shooting guard. Corey Joseph, you could go to at $4,900. I do want to talk about Justin James. So Justin James was one of the guys that really benefited last game from the Kings with Bogdan out. He played 33 minutes, which is the most he's played all season. The most minutes James had played before then was 7 minutes. He knocked down 6 of 14 shots, 2 for 4 from 3, had 24 DraftKings points, had 14 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. One of the reasons I pulled up the Kings rotation was to talk about Justin James. So if we look at his rotation last game against Brooklyn, that game that blew out, he checked in about halfway through the first quarter once Harrison Barnes subbed out, played about till the end of the first quarter, played about halfway through the second quarter, then he subbed out, and then once he checked in the third quarter, about 4 minutes into the third quarter, he checked in, didn't sub out the rest of the game. He played the entire third quarter and the entire fourth quarter. A lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with blowout, so I don't think Justin James is going to get 30 minutes again. I'd most likely project him for probably high teens, maybe low 20s. He's really cheap on DraftKings, so he's not the worst value play today. But if people are going to chase that game, I mean, Justin James is not going to play 33 minutes again. That had to do with blowout. He's not going to play the entire fourth quarter. Like, if that game's close, you're going to get Harrison Barnes subbing back in and Justin James going to the bench and most likely finishing the game with like 22 minutes. So that's where I would project James here. $3,400, even if he plays 22 minutes, he could be a fine value play, but I don't think we really need to go there on this slate. I think it's just not necessary. We'll probably be able to get better value, especially if like he's going to be really popular. That would be an easy fade for me, even at 3,400. Let's go ahead and talk about some small forwards, though. We'll move on to this position. So at small forward, I mean, there's not much that really stands my eye as like a smash play, as like core plays. You have Kawhi at 10K, Paul George at 8,500. I don't think either guy are going to be core plays for me today. Like, I would much rather play Bradley Beal over Kawhi. I would much rather play Jokic over Paul George. Kawhi and Paul George are going to be great fantasy plays like all season, but when they're both healthy, they're going to take away usage from each other. Rarely are you going to get like 60-point games from either guy. I mean, first game, I believe Houston was the first game that both Kawhi and PG were healthy and playing together. You got 28 minutes from Kawhi. I think a lot of that had to do with foul trouble. He's not going to play 28 minutes most nights. You're more likely to get like 35, 36 minutes from Kawhi. He still did put up 42 DraftKings points in 28 minutes. I mean, Kawhi's not a bad play at 10K, but I would just much rather play Bradley Beal for $200 more, who's really going to get all the usage from the Wizards. 8,500 for Paul George feels really cheap, but again, this is a guy that you're rarely going to get a like 60-point game from, especially when Kawhi is healthy. He did play 32 minutes in that game against Houston, had 43 DraftKings points. I mean, he shot pretty poorly from the field, 4 for 15, 3 for 10 from 3. He did contribute in with the peripherals, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. If I'm going to choose one Clipper to go to between him and PG, or between Kawhi and PG, I'd much rather go with Paul George for 8,500, but still don't think he's going to be a core play for me, even in a really good matchup against the Pelicans, just because I like Jokic so much for 700 more. I like Bradley Beal over Kawhi. I would say PG is probably like my third favorite stud, though, on this slate behind Jokic and Beal. He'd be the next guy I would look to, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to get him into my main lineup if I'm trying to pay up for Beal and Jokic. Plus, I really like Buddy Hield at 7,200, and it's hard to get like Hield, PG, Jokic. You're just not going to be able to get all those guys into your lineup. So let's just talk about some other small forwards now. Not really much that stands out to me. 8,400 for Brandon Ingram doesn't feel like a smash play by any means. Like, I'd much rather play Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield is small forward eligible, so I'm pretty sure he's small forward eligible, at least on DraftKings. Yeah, he's small forward eligible. He'd be a guy I'd consider for 7,200. Bertans have been playing a lot over on Yahoo. He's 6K on DraftKings, though I don't think I need to go to him at 6K on DraftKings. 5K and below, I mean, there's not a ton of great value I see either. Troy Brown is questionable, I believe. He was absent from Saturday's practice due to an illness. There's a chance if he winds up sitting, we could get like CJ Miles starting or maybe Isaac Bonga starting. I'm pretty sure CJ Miles is dirt cheap. Yeah, CJ Miles is 3,200. It's a good matchup against the Kings. Very scoring-dependent player, but in a good matchup against the Kings, a bad defensive team, especially if he starts for Troy Brown, you could definitely see CJ Miles enter the category of value play. Isaac Bonga as well. I imagine if he's out, if Troy Brown's out, you probably get Miles starting. So that could be a value play we would look to at small forward for 3,200. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see on that news, though, regarding Troy Brown's status. But let's go ahead and talk about some power forwards now, run through this position real quickly. So at power forward, I probably won't be paying up here much. I really like some of these mid-range options we have. One guy I want to talk about on both sides is Richaun Holmes, 6,200 on DraftKings. He is power forward eligible on DraftKings, so I have a ton of interest in him over there. Now on Yahoo, you have to play Richaun Holmes at center, which kind of sucks. I still think he's a very strong play at $21. But if you're going with like 3 shooting guards, if you're going with Beal, Hield, and JJ Redick, you're not going to be able to play Holmes because I really want to get Jokic, and I'm not going to be able to play Jokic and Holmes together if I go with Bradley Beal, Buddy Hield, and JJ Redick. But I do like Richaun Holmes quite a bit at $21. If you're getting away from JJ Redick and you want to play Jokic and Holmes together, that makes a ton of sense. We'll talk about Jokic in a second. But on DraftKings, where you can roster Richaun Holmes at power forward, I think that's where I have a lot of appeal. I mean, he only played 26 minutes against Brooklyn. A lot of that had to do with the blowout. I don't believe he subbed in during the fourth quarter at all. I can check that real quick. Let's see here. Holmes did play in the fourth quarter, but it was only like a 3 or 4 minute stint. He subbed out like halfway through the third quarter, and then he checked into the fourth quarter for about 3 minutes and then didn't play at all in the rest of the fourth quarter. You're more likely going to get like 30 to 32 minutes from Richaun Holmes in games that are competitive. This is a great spot against a bad Wizards defense, a Wizards team that plays fast. There's going to be a lot of shot attempts in this game, a lot of opportunity for rebounds. I think it's very likely Richaun Holmes is able to get you a double-double today. For 6,200, I really like him a lot on DraftKings, especially where you can play him at power forward. But if we're looking for value at this position, I mean, There's not much that really stands out to me value-wise. Frank Kaminsky continues to start at center with Aaron Baines out. It's hard for me to see him having a lot of success in this matchup against Jokic. I mean, he's played pretty solid minutes. He played 29 minutes on Sunday with Baines out, starting at center, had 22 DK points. Played 24 minutes against the Pelicans, 21 DK points. It's going to be interesting to see who the Suns decide to use against Nikola Jokic, like defensively or for defensive reasons. If Baines is out, I mean, Baines is going to be the primary defender on Jokic if Baines can play. Like, do they start Check Diallo? Does Check Diallo get some run? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Kaminsky starting at center for 4,600 isn't the worst value play, but he just hasn't been that productive even starting at center. Playing alongside Devin Booker is obviously not really going to help him. But he is power forward and center eligible, which makes him pretty appealing on DraftKings. But that's just kind of where I'm looking to at power forward. Now moving on to center, obviously Nikola Jokic is someone I want to talk about. I love him here against the Suns. 9,200 on DraftKings, $38 on Yahoo. He's one of my favorite studs on this slate, along with Bradley Beal. So with these Suns most likely not having not having Aaron Baines for this game, that's going to set up for a pretty easy matchup for Jokic, whether it's Dario Saric on him or Frank Kaminsky or Check Diallo. I mean, none of those guys are going to be able to slow down Jokic. For what it's worth, he absolutely torched the Suns earlier this season with a 23, 14, and 12 triple-double, had 66 DraftKings points. He played 40 minutes in that game. Jokic looked really good against Boston, finally had a big game, had a triple-double in that game. I think it's possible we get another triple-double from Nikola Jokic. At 9,200, love the spot for him against the Suns. He's definitely going to be a core play for me in terms of like paying up at center. He's the guy I want to try and jam in the most at this position. But if you're not going to Jokic, which I think is pretty dumb, I mean, I really like Jokic here. You do have other guys like Julius Randle, I think has a lot of upside here against Brooklyn. You just never know what his minutes are going to look like. I mean, Fizdale, what he does with that rotation is so frustrating. But I think Randle gives a ton of upside in that matchup against Brooklyn. Thomas Bryant, 6,700 against the Kings, I like quite a bit. You can play Rashawn Holmes at center. He's 6,200. I definitely would play Holmes over Jared Allen. I mean, Jared Allen's been a guy I've played a lot recently. But since he's getting priced up a lot, I mean, he's 6,200. Like, I'd rather just play Rashawn Holmes in a better matchup. Value-wise at center, though, there's a couple values I want to talk about. I mean, you do have Kaminsky, who I've already mentioned. Jackson Hayes, 4,300. I do like quite a bit here as a value play. So he has started just the last 3 or 4 games that both Okafor and Derek Favors have been out. Pretty sure we already know Favors is going to be out. Okafor, we don't know the status yet. He did play, I believe, about 30 minutes on Saturday night against the Jazz. He had a pretty solid game. I think he finished with like 24 or 25 DraftKings points. Hayes is going to be a guy that gives you probably 30 minutes most nights. He only played 21 minutes against the Suns. A lot of that had to do with 5 fouls. He had foul trouble in that game. 21 minutes against Portland. He did check into the fourth quarter in that game, but then he got hurt as soon as the fourth quarter started and never played like the rest of the fourth quarter. So only 21 minutes from him in that game. Like we saw Saturday night, you're going to get 30 minutes from Hayes most nights. 4,300 in a matchup against a Clippers team that does struggle to defend bigs. I really like Jackson Hayes here. If he plays 30 minutes, could easily give you a double-double. Very likely he returns value on that $4,300 salary. He's a very good value on both sides. He's pretty cheap on on Yahoo as well. $13 as a value center. He makes plenty of sense. I just feel like I'm going to be going to like a bunch of I really like Beal, Hield, and Redick as like shooting guard plays, and I can't play. Obviously, if I'm playing Redick at the util, I won't be able to get Hayes in there because I want to get Jokic. But I do like Hayes at $13 as a value. If you want to play him over Redick, I mean, I honestly don't think that's the worst idea. But that's just kind of where I'm looking to for center, guys. I think that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. As always, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Before you get out of here, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. As always, you can follow me on Twitter. Link is down in the description at DFS by Noah. Very active over on Twitter. Feel free to give me a follow over there. If you ever need to contact me, you can DM me on Twitter. My DMs are open. But good luck tonight on the Sunday NBA slate. I appreciate you watching the video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.